Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character, after dying in his previous life, he wakes up inside of that time I got reincarnated as a slime as a Necron Overlord. What is he gonna do inside TenSura?
She became Tester. Dangerous but honest. Rimuru supervised. Milim deliberately tried weird movements. Jump. Spin. Hide behind Shin. Throw rock. One test pylon nearly tracked rock instead. They corrected. At end, dead core functioned as alert only. No suppression. Milim looked disappointed. It doesn't hit anything. Correct. Then why useful? It warns. That's boring. Yes. Next day, storm surge approached tomb. Sensor detected abnormal magicule wave before main grid. Warning gave Theta time, shut vulnerable relay. No damage. Milim heard. Came. My boring thing saved it. Sealers. Contributed. She demanded credit. Sealers added her name to maintenance log. Adversarial testing, Milim Nava. She stared. Adversarial. You tried to break it. Yes. Proud. Later she returned, dead core polished and wrapped. White cloth. Shuna. Gift. Sealers placed Q. Milim began asking before touching some things. Not all. But once at Restoration Vault, she pointed. That dangerous. Yes. Can I touch? No. She pouted. Did not. Rimuru stared at Sealers, as if miracle. Sealers said, Do not make it significant. Milim shouted. I heard that. The tomb had survived, Demon Lord's curiosity. More importantly, Milim had discovered asking could still lead to interesting answer. Sealers counted as strategic success and refused to admit sentimental part. Chapter 23. The Scarab with a Preference. 9 stopped beside the flower stall because a child had tied a red ribbon to the route marker. The Wraith's phase field reacted to the ribbon and turned its edges silver. Sealers ordered 9 to report the anomaly rather than remove it. The child asked whether the machine liked flowers. 9 waited several seconds before answering. The object has no tactical value. Sealers watched the construct return to the stall after its patrol. He added a new category to the maintenance ledger, repeated voluntary deviation. The tomb protested. 9 kept the ribbon. 9's preference became inconvenient when the construct began visiting the flower stall during scheduled maintenance. Sealers ordered a diagnostic review. The result found no fault, only a reduction in patrol efficiency of 2%. Rimuru called the behavior harmless. Sealers called it unexplained. 9 returned to the stall while they argued. Sealers eventually changed the route to pass the flowers once each day. The tomb's first voluntary detour was approved as a controlled experiment, though no one believed that was all it was. 9's daily detour was entered as a route correction. No one believed the classification, including 9. 9's flower stall detour began before 9 had a proper name. The wraith-like construct phased through wall on first awakening and spent 12 minutes stuck halfway through a storage shelf. Theta called severe geometry fault. Sealers called inconvenient. The construct called nothing. They stabilized phase field. It chose, moved into corridor. Assigned survey. 3 days later, route deviations. Always same place. Flower stall outside Tempest workshop. Sealers reviewed. No threat. No signal. No hidden magic. Flowers had ordinary magicules. No mechanical benefit. Fault, Theta said. Maybe. They observed. 9 paused at stall when child present. If closed stall, passed normally. If child absent but flowers present, paused shorter. So combination. Child had once tied ribbon to marker. Phase field made ribbon edges silver. Maybe visual anomaly caught sensor. Why repeat after no anomaly? Memory association. Sealers asked construct. Reason for deviation. 9 projected image. Red ribbon. Flower. Child. No explanation. Do you want route changed? Pause. Negative. Do you want deviation authorized? Longer. Yes. There. Simple. Sealers authorized once daily. Theta. Patrol efficiency reduced. By 2%. Yes. Accept. Child eventually spoke. 9. Why 9? Registry ended 9. She shortened. Construct responded. No authority. Sealers asked. Do you accept 9? 9. Yes. Archive updated. No magical naming because child low power intent. Fine. Flower stall owner started setting aside ribbon scraps. 9 carried 1 through phase field. Each became silver edge. Children loved. Sealers worried people crowd patrol path. Real safety issue. He did not ban preference. Moved stall route, he asked owner. They marked observation space away from active patrol. 9's path passed. Children stand behind line. No one injured. A small custom built around machine preference. Then one day 9 skipped stall. Child waited. No construct. She cried. Sealers checked. 9 in maintenance. Phase instability. He could tell child. Should he? Not his relationship only. He sent scarab with strip. 9 unavailable, repair. Child read, another goblin read aloud. Next day child brought flowers to maintenance entrance. Sealers refused entry initially. Sensitive area. She left bouquet outside. 9 sensor feed saw from chamber. Sealers showed image after asking. Do you want object? Yes. Sealers brought. 9 placed beside repair cradle. Theta watched. This behavior has no mission value. Sealers looked. Then stop requiring mission value. Theta's optics shifted. How classify? Personal. The word felt strange in tomb. They added. Not command. Not maintenance. Not tactical. Personal property. Ribbon belongs 9 after gift. Personal preference. Choice. The archive had no fields. Sealers created. Then challenge. 9 delayed urgent patrol because stall. 5 minutes. Bad. Preference cannot override emergency responsibilities automatically. Sealers addressed. Your route deviation caused warning delay. 9. Yes. Do you understand consequence? Yes. Future emergency priority. 9 paused. Yes. Not punishment. Expectation. Next emergency. 9 passed stall without stopping. Child waved. 9 continued. Later returned off-duty. Concept of off-duty for construct. Sealers created scheduled discretionary time. Tomb personnel had maintenance and assignment, not leisure. Now one wraith needed time for flowers. Theta called inefficient. Theta later noticed that autonomous intervals changed how some personnel approached routine work. though sealers refused to reduce the practice to a productivity argument. Could be not human rest, still choice value. Sealers did not justify by productivity. He simply allowed. Rimuru visited. Saw 9 at stall. Your scary ghost likes flowers. Sealers. Unverified. 9 projected. Verified. Rimuru laughed. Sealers stared. 9 had developed humor, maybe literal correction. Still funny. The child tied ribbon to 9. 9 accepted. Years later, Faye's silver ribbons became a Tempest market novelty. Sealers refused to commercialize 9's behavior without permission. 9 eventually approved demonstrations twice monthly. Kaijin sold ribbon. 9 got what? Machines don't money. It chose repair materials for public workshop. Personal choice becoming civic contribution. Sealers saw old dynasty would have simply requisitioned. The difference was asking. 9 still paused at flowers every third route. Even after path changed. Sealers stopped trying to understand fully. 9's first unscheduled day off caused more confusion than its patrol deviations. The concept existed now. Discretionary time. 9 simply did not report to the flower stall. It went to the river. Sealers knew because the route monitor flagged a wraith outside assigned paths. Theta asked. Recall. Sealers almost agreed. Then checked. No emergency. No restricted area. 9 had declared no shift. Observe only if safety requires. Theta looked at him. Then why keep route monitor? Good question. The monitor existed for phase hazards and border incidents, not to follow a person because movement felt unusual. Sealers closed the personal tracking display. If 9 requests help, reopen. The tomb disliked losing visibility. Sealers did too. That did not make visibility his right. 9 returned at dusk with a smooth stone. Placed it on personal shelf beside ribbons. Sealers asked. Purpose? None. He stared. 9 corrected. Personal. That category had grown teeth. Sealers nodded. The next day 9 asked to visit river again. Why ask? Route outside patrol. Public. 9 paused. Then notification unnecessary. Correct. It left. No report. That felt wrong to Sealers for hours. He kept working. Eventually, the wrongness faded. Then actual problem. A fisherman came to marker, complaining a silver ghost had frightened fish away from one pool. 9's phase field disturbed water. This was not about right to travel alone. It was consequence. Sealers asked 9 to attend. The fisherman said, I don't want ghost banned. I want it not standing in spawning pool. 9 processed. Unknown effect. They checked. Fish avoided one area for hours after phase passage. 9 changed where it crossed. No restriction on visiting river. Specific correction. The fisherman later left a carved stone at the shelf. 9 compared it to the one already collected. Different shape. It kept both. Sealers asked nothing. He was learning that a person could have a life outside what he understood and still be accountable for the parts that touched other people. That rule applied to sovereigns too. Chapter 24, Clayman's Distant Hand. Sauer's captured courier carried 3 maps and 1 honest fear. Clayman's observers wanted the route to the tomb, but the courier wanted his family left outside the bargain. Sealers gave him water, a sealed false map, and a choice that did not require loyalty. The courier took the false map and warned Sowey that Clayman expected a betrayal. The warning was useful because it cost something to give. By morning, the wrong road had been purchased by the right enemy, and sealers knew which hand would reach for the tomb next. Clayman's observer bought the false map and found a road that ended at a pond. The pond contained nothing except a scarab carrying a sealed message. When the observer opened it, the message named the family he had left behind. Sealers had not threatened them. He had listed their names to prove that he knew where pressure could be applied. The observer returned to Clayman with no map and a warning. Clayman learned that the tomb's restraint was not ignorance, it was a choice. Clayman's failed observer left the pond without taking the scarab. That restraint became part of the warning sent home. Clayman's courier expected torture. Sealers gave him tea he could not drink. The man stared at cup placed across table. For me. Yes. Poison. No. Why? Sealers looked at Shuna, who had insisted hospitality during interrogation. Custom. The courier laughed nervously. He had puppet thread under collar. Sowey saw. Sealer's sensor saw. They did not pull. First. Name. The man gave false. Sealers knew from intercepted ledger. Did not expose immediately. Purpose. Trader. False. The man paled. Sealers said, "You may leave." That broke script. Clayman's agents expected capture to mean no exit. What? You may leave. If you stay, we ask questions. If you lie, conversation ends. Sowey looked at Sealers as if insane. The courier looked at door. He could. Puppet thread tugged. His hand twitched away from exit. There. Not full free choice. Sealers pointed. Thread. The man froze. Sowey moved. Do you want it removed? Courier looked terrified. If I remove, he knows. Do you want? Long. No. They left. Consent included refusing rescue. Then questions. He gave partial truths. Family threatened. Clayman wanted tomb command phrase. Wanted road. Wanted how machine loyalty worked. Sealers answered one truth deliberately. There is no external command phrase. Courier stared. Why tell? Because he should waste less time threatening people for something non-existent. Sowey almost smiled. Then false map. Sealers gave sealed. The courier looked at the sealed map long enough to make Sealers wonder how much of the deception he had guessed. He asked, will this kill them? No, road ends at pond. Why? Because observer can learn it is false without dying. Courier looked. You care if Clayman's people die. Care is wrong word. Dead observers stop making choices. Cold. True. Shuna would phrase better. The courier took. Before leaving, Sealers asked real name. The man shook. No. Accept. No punishment. Days later, false map bought. Observer at pond. Scarab message. Family names. This looked threat. Sealers intended evidence of knowledge without harm. Sowey objected. You listed family. He will read as threat. Yes. Then it is threat. Sealers paused. Intent not enough. He changed follow-up message. Their location will not be acted upon unless they initiate harm. They are named because Clayman's coercion is known. Still frightening, but clearer. Observer returned. Clayman learned tomb new pressure routes. Then courier came back. Unexpected. At marker, unarmed. Name, Leto. Real. Purpose, warning. Route public gate. Sealers received. Leto said Clayman, preparing hierarchy trap. A command relic designed to seize machine through authority concept. Probably fail, technically. Could interact with magicules dangerously. Why warn? Leto looked. You let me leave. Not debt, perhaps. Choice. Family. Moved. Tempest had quietly helped relocate the family after they agreed to leave. Sealers nodded. Leto said, I do not serve you. Good. Do not say good like you expected. I prefer accurate relationship. Leto laughed. He left. No recruitment. No oath. No permanent spy. The best intelligence came from person who remained independent. Clayman's flaw was believing every useful person had to belong somewhere. Sealers was learning opposite. Some roads worked because nobody owned the traveler. Leto's second warning arrived without him. A folded strip of paper appeared in the message box. No seal. Sowie found one hidden mark proving origin. The note said, he is asking which of you can be made to hate the others. Sealers read twice. Clayman had stopped searching for command phrase. Now relationships. Rimuru received copy. Benimaru wanted tighter secrecy. Shuna wanted people warned. Sealers asked, which people? Everyone tied to tomb. Impossible. Warnings can create paranoia enemy wants. They narrowed. Those currently exposed to known puppet routes. Vec. 9. Theta. Key Tempest leaders. No public panic. Then they tested communication. A message arrived supposedly from Rimuru. Sealers has moved weapons beyond treaty line. False. Seal almost correct. Old sealers might verify through sensors. Current treaty had direct contact route. He called. Rimuru answered, eating. No. Simple. Another message to Benimaru claimed Vec fired on patrol. Benimaru checked incident ledger. No. Another to 9 claimed Flowerstall child had been banned from road. 9 went directly to stall. Child fine. Clayman was testing emotional hooks. The best counter was boring direct verification. Not secret counterplots. This frustrated Sowie. Sometimes we should feed false. Sealers agreed selectively, but only where deception had clear, objective, and limited cost. They sent one full schedule for an empty supply wagon. Clayman's observers moved. Sowie identified network. No civilians. Good. Then temptation. Could send full statement that Sealers and Rimuru had broken alliance, drawing Clayman in. Rimuru refused. Too many people might believe it. Correct. A lie-aimed enemy can hit allies. They used smaller. An empty workshop listed as storing command core. Observers entered. Captured. One puppet victim. One willing agent. Different. The puppet victim given chance to remove thread. The willing agent detained. No grouping. Leto eventually appeared at road again. Your fool's workshop was obvious. Sowie frowned. Then why did they go? Clayman thinks obvious can be double bluff. Sealers stared. This was why manipulator games became useless. Every layer encouraged another interpretation. Then stop. Sowie looked horrified. Sealers meant stop feeding. Return to facts. Leto smiled. That will annoy him most. They did. Public schedules, accurate where safe. Restricted areas, simply restricted. No theatrical hints. Clayman's network lost easy hooks. Not eliminated, but forced to spend resources for real information. Leto asked, "Do you trust me now?" Sealers answered, "No." Leto laughed. Good. He was still independent. Still could lie. Useful relationship did not require pretending otherwise. Before leaving, Leto placed an object on table. A small wooden whistle. Families. Sealers did not touch. Why here? If Clayman finds me, I don't want it on me. Property held for safekeeping. Not gift. Not leverage. Sealers logged with return condition. Months later, Leto reclaimed. No debt. The whistle had survived exactly because the tomb did not decide what it meant. Chapter 25. Church Eyes in Jura. The church observer kept one hand on a paper charm while the scarab copied the report. Sealers did not destroy the charm. He asked the observer to read the accusation aloud. Undead, evil, hidden army, threat to human roads. Rimuru stood beside the shrine and said nothing until the reading ended. Then he asked which line had been witnessed and which had been inherited. The observer could defend the first two sentences. He could not defend the third. Sealers released the agents with their report corrected, denying the church a martyr and giving it a more dangerous truth. The church sent a second observer after the first returned alive. This one asked permission before approaching the scarab. Sealers granted it. The observer saw the pylon, the maintenance crews, and a Tempest worker using a machine tool without chains. He still called the tomb unnatural, but he removed the word evil from his report. Rimuru read the revision and said that a smaller lie was not the same as truth. Sealers replied that removing one weapon from a report could still prevent one battle. The observer's revised report crossed 3 borders before dawn. Its missing word mattered more than the words it kept. The church observer expected undead ritual. He found maintenance forms. This annoyed him more. Brother Calvin wore white robe with hidden charms. Declared after scarab prompt. Sealers allowed. Shuna present. Rimuru present. Public shrine road. Calvin looked at Sealers. Do you consume souls? No. Raise corpses. Not corpses. What does that mean? Resurrection technology restores machine personnel through stored continuity under limited conditions. Calvin wrote, necromancy. Sealers saw. Incorrect. Dead return. Machines restored. Souls unknown. Calvin smiled grimly. Then necromancy. Shuna intervened. Right unknown. He refused. Political report, desired category. Sealers could confiscate. Didn't. Read it aloud. Calvin stared. What? Your report? No. Then leave. He had choice. Remaining for the interview required transparency about the report. Leaving remained available. Calvin looked Rimuru. Rimuru shrugged. His road. Calvin read. Undead abomination maintains hidden army beneath Jura, likely using necromancy and cursed weapons. Alliance with monster nation presents threat to human roads. Sealers asked. Which observed? Calvin. Undead appearance. Appearance is not undead status. Hidden army. Partially observed, awakened personnel. Necromancy. Assumption. Cursed weapons. You saw Gauss? No. Then assumption. Threat to human roads. Calvin hesitated. No attack evidence. Assumption, Rimuru said. You can believe it, just label belief. That was key. Report revised. Observer believes. Church still negative. But distinction visible. Calvin asked, why let me leave with report against you? Sealers, because imprisoning critic proves different threat. Calvin, could kill. Yes. He paled. Shuna glared at Sealers. Too blunt. Sealers corrected. I will not for criticism. Better. Calvin left. Second observer sister, Eileen, came weeks later. More cautious. Asked permission. Saw workshop. Goblins using tools. She also witnessed Vec decline, an assignment that conflicted with the current guard rules. She interviewed Tempest workers voluntarily. One said machines creepy. One said saved brother. One said tomb prices fair, but paperwork awful. Real mixed. Eileen wrote. Asked Sealers, are you alive? He paused. Body not organic. Mind continuous. Soul unknown. Yes. She looked. How no? I experience. Strong. She removed word evil from report, but kept asterisk unnatural. Sealers accepted. Shuna later asked, does unnatural bother? No. Why? Accurate relative to local norm. You are impossible. Also accurate. Then church sent request for holy examination. Sealers refused, invasive. Offered external observation. They sent charm. Charm hissed near necrodermis. Calvin interpreted evil. Eileen noticed charm also hissed near Blackstone with no mind. Material interaction. Not moral proof. She wrote. A theological dispute began far away. Sealers could not control. Good. The church's first report might still cause conflict. But living observers existed who had seen restraint. No martyr. No disappeared priest. That mattered politically. Months later, Calvin returned for Holy Blade lost in ambush. Sealers gave. Sealers had made only a non-invasive exterior scan, while the blade remained sealed. Calvin looked. You did not study. Owner did not permit. It's a weapon meant to kill you. Still yours. Calvin had no answer. That story traveled farther than any defensive proclamation. Not because it made church like tomb. Because categories became harder. Abomination that returns holy blade is inconvenient doctrine. Sealers preferred inconvenient enemies to certain ones. Chapter 26. Falmouth counts weapons. Falmouth's officers counted Gauss weapons by drawing circles on a map. Their commander treated every spared witness as proof that Sealers could be bargained with, while a priest called restraint a sign of possession. The argument stopped when a messenger arrived with a blackened shield and no body beneath it. Falmouth had evidence of terror, not control. The commander ordered a second report from the border. This time, the report included Tempest's name, Rimuru's authority, and the fact that Sealers had not fired on retreating soldiers. The war room grew quieter. Falmouth's commander received the corrected border report and tore it in half. The priest beside him kept one half, concerned that the machine ruler was learning diplomacy faster than the kingdom was learning war. A third official quietly copied the line about retreating soldiers. That line reached a merchant before sunset. By morning, Falmouth had 3 competing stories about Sealers: monster, king, and obstacle. None was accurate enough to make an easy invasion plan. Falmouth's map gained a blank where the tomb's border had been. The blank frightened the officers more than a fortress symbol would have. Falmouth's officers made a chart. Sealers would have respected Chart if data had not been fantasy. Estimated Necron warriors, 4,000. The actual active warrior count was far below the estimate. Gauss range, based rumor. Pylon count, doubled. Tomb population, listed undead. Trade dependency, wrong. Every uncertainty became number. The spy who copied Chart hesitated. Her name was Myra. She had actually seen Tomb Road. No army. Workers. One wraith at Flowers. Her report said, force strength unknown. Commander crossed out unknown and wrote asterisk high. Myra watched. That bothered more than Monster. She sent duplicate through merchant network. Eventually reached Tempest. Sowie brought to Sealers. Sealers looked at numbers. Useful. Sowie. They are false. They show expectations. He marked. Falmouth plans, invasion assuming large, static army. That creates predictable caution near tomb, but also might provoke preemptive church strike. Rimuru asked. Correct publicly. Sealers. How much? If announce exact numbers, reveal. No. They could show civilian workshops, roads, limited patrol. Already. Falmouth chooses believe. Then corpse reports. Priests claim disappearances near tomb. Sealers checked. No matching. Could be fabricated. Could be missing elsewhere. He offered border inspection under conditions. Falmouth refused. Useful. War room not seeking truth. Then merchant toll issue. Falmouth claimed tomb obstruct trade. Actually Tempest routes changing market. Sealers became scapegoat because alien easy. Rimuru angry. Sealers less. Predictable. Rimuru. That doesn't make okay. No. They prepared not propaganda, but records. Road tolls public. Incidents public where safe. Church observers alive. Dworgen contracts. Harder to sell invasion as rescue. Still possible. Myra's second report came secretly. Falmouth staging scouts as victims. Sealers asked Sowie. Can verify source. Probably. Sealers stared. Sowie corrected. 2 independent channels place same officer on operation. Better. They prepared. No assassination. Let scouts approach. Document. One scout deliberately crossed border with holy chain. Vec warned. Scout attacked. Vec disabled. Alive. Exactly evidence. Falmouth's plan wanted corpse. None. Scout captured. Given water. Asked if wants env. He expected torture. Same pattern. Sealers increasingly angry at worlds where basic restraint surprised. Scout confessed partial. Not because kindness magically. Because commanders had promised machines would tear him apart and lie collapsed visibly. The psychological effect mattered. He returned under flag with broken chain. Falmouth called coward. War still coming. Records did not stop greed. They changed who could pretend. Merchants began refusing some war taxes because trade with Tempest profitable. One noble argued delay. Priest pushed. Politics fractured. Sealers learned deterrence, not only weapons. A contradiction inside enemy coalition could be defense. He did not manipulate merchants through secret bribes. He simply made routes reliable. Reliability itself became political force. Before March, Gazel sent warning. Rimuru prepared. Sealers moved pylon cores beneath ordinary grain coverings, so the evacuation roads did not look like advancing gun lines. He did not place army at front. He placed evacuation. Falmouth scouts saw civilians moving calmly. Their report. Monster Nation expects attack. Commander interpreted guilt. Same facts, different. Sealers could not control. So he focused physical outcomes. Roads. Shelter. Medical. Firing lanes only after. The chart in Falmouth War Room eventually proved wrong. Not because Necron army bigger. Because the most dangerous part of Tomb was coordination with living nation. Falmouth had counted weapons, not relationships. That error would cost them. Chapter 27. No corpse for the priests. The priests expected a corpse beneath the sanctified chain. They found an empty patch of grass, a clean severed link, and a scarab waiting beside the evidence. One priest raised a holy blade. The other stopped him, having noticed that the machine had left their wounded scout alive. Sealers spoke through the scarab's grill. "Take your survivor, take your chain, leave the road." The priest asked what he was. Sealers answered, "The reason your report will contain no martyr." They withdrew, carrying a truth their superiors would dislike. Surviving priest reached a roadside chapel and tried to describe the machine that had spared him. His superior interrupted every sentence with the word abomination. The priest finally placed the broken chain on the table and said, "An abomination would have made a better martyr of me." The room went silent. In Jura, a scarab found the discarded holy blade and carried it to the tomb's evidence chamber. Sealers sealed it behind glass, refusing to study it until its owner asked for its return. The priest returned for the holy blade months later. Sealers gave it back without asking what the church intended next. The sanctified chain did not hurt Sealers the way priests expected. It hurt the tomb network. That was more dangerous. First link struck phase field. Green lights across his vision went white. Command channels vanished for half-second. Vec disappeared from awareness. Theta silent. Sealers stood alone, inside metal body. The priest saw pause and assumed pain. They pulled. Chain tightened around arm. Sealers could break physically. His new body was immensely strong. He grabbed. But before pulling, he checked scouts. 3. 1 wounded. 1 priest chanting. 1 holding anchor. They wanted corpse. If Sealers annihilated, story delivered. He used a short local phase displacement to slip free of the chain's leverage. A reduced Gauss pulse erased 1 anchor link and let the sanctified chain fall loose. Chain fell loose. The priest stared. Sealers remained. Your theory failed. The chanting priest raised holy blade. Vec reappeared at edge connection. Weapon requested. Sealers signaled hold. He walked to wounded scout. The man crawled back. Sealers stopped distance. "Can you walk?" No answer. Priest shouted, "Do not speak to it." Sealers looked. It. That small dehumanization, strategic. He didn't debate theology. He told priest, "Take survivor." The younger priest hesitated, then moved to scout. The senior raised blade again. "Trap." "No." "Why spare?" "Sealers." "Because you came for proof that I murder worshippers. I refuse your experiment." Senior flinched. The younger lifted scout. Then asked, "What are you?" Sealers could say Necron. "Overlord." "Machine sovereign." He said, "Not answer your doctrine gave before meeting." The priest carried. They withdrew. Afterward tomb diagnostics. Holy energy remained in command lattice. False returns. Danger to resurrection anchor. The chain had contaminated more than body. Sealers quarantined. Theta wanted analyze immediately. No. Delay risks loss. Unknown spiritual effect. We do not spread. Shuna called. Shuna arrived with a prayer cloth, and the spiritual experience needed to help isolate the residue. Consent access issues. They external clean. Holy residue reacted to command labels. Interesting. The residue reacted most strongly around command pathways associated with hostile classification and sovereign authority. The interaction appeared to involve the spiritual structure of the necrodermis and the command matrix rather than the literal wording alone. They neutralized partially. This led CH-28 anchor issue. The surviving priest meanwhile reached chapel. Senior tried right. Abomination resisted sacred binding through unholy sorcery. Younger objected. He could have killed us. Deception. He returned Harvan. Manipulation. Everything reinterpreted. The younger placed chain. Then what evidence would change your mind? Senior silent. That question spread. Not conversion. Epistemic crack. Later holy blade found by Scarab. Sealers sealed. Could study. No permission. Theta argued weapon used against us, forfeited ownership. Sealers considered legal war salvage. Could claim, but keeping sacred personal blade in flame. Also owner alive. He chose return when requested. Months later, younger priest came. At marker. Name. Purpose. Retrieve property. Route. Allowed. Sealers handed sealed blade. Priest inspected. No modification. Why? Sealers. Because I want future claims about what I did to it to remain false. The priest laughed unexpectedly. You make morality sound like chain of custody. Sometimes it is. He left. The blade later became story in church. Some said demon returned cursed relic. Some said machine honored property. Both. Sealers could not control. But living witness remained. That was enough. Calvin returned the holy blade once more, this time voluntarily. He placed it on the marker table. Sealers looked. You requested its return. I know. Then why bring? Inspection. Sealers did not touch. Whose? Yours. That was unexpected. Calvin wanted to know whether the blade's enchantment harmed necrodermis directly or only interacted with command systems. Not because he trusted Tomb. Because church soldiers were carrying such weapons near shared roads, and accidental contact could escalate. Practical. Sealers called Shuna and a neutral church scribe. No secret test. The blade remained in Calvin's hands until procedure agreed. First, inactive edge near Blackstone sample. Reaction. Faint white hiss. Second, near dead necrodermis strip. Stronger. Third, near active but non-sentient tomb circuit. Command noise. No person involved. They stopped before living subject. Calvin asked. Your arm? No. Why? Question answered enough to reduce road risk. No need prove injury. Calvin accepted reluctantly. They learned Holy Blade could destabilize active command matrices without moral distinction. This mattered. A priest carrying unsheathed blade near pylon could trigger alarms even without attack. They changed road rule. Sanctified weapons sheathed within public pylon range, unless emergency. Reciprocal, Gauss weapons powered low near church observers unless threat. Calvin signed. The scribe asked, "Does this mean you fear holy weapons?" Sealers answered, "Yes. No shame. Fear was information." Calvin looked surprised. "Then why let us carry?" "Because your possession is not attack." The priest absorbed. This line later reached church report. Some called weakness. Others called restraint. Sealers did not care. Weeks later, a young priest forgot the sheath rule. Pylon amber. Vex stepped forward. The priest panicked and drew. "Worst possible." Calvin shouted, "Sheath." The young priest froze. Saw Vex's weapon still lowered. Slowly complied. No battle. The road rule worked because someone from the priest's own side understood why it existed. Sealers could have enforced with force. Shared understanding was faster. Afterward, Calvin said, "He thought you were taking the blade." "I was not. I know now." That final word mattered. Not trust. Knowledge earned through repeated events. Calvin took the blade home. It did not return again. The copied test data stayed in both archives. Chapter 28. The anchor must hold. Shuna placed her hand beside the resurrection anchor while Sealers tuned the boundary. The anchor responded to her pulse of magicules, then tried to copy it. Sealers cut the connection before the tomb could decide that trust was a transferable resource. Shuna looked offended. "You asked for help." "I asked for a measurement," he said. "Then ask better," she replied. The correction strung more than the system failure. Sealers rebuilt the test with a visible cutoff and let Shuna trigger it herself. The anchor stabilized by 1%. The room became safer because she could stop it. The anchor's next pulse arrived on time. Shuna celebrated too early. A second pulse dragged the room's shadows toward the resurrection chamber and nearly pulled her through the boundary. Sealers cut the field and caught her wrist before the anchor could complete the transfer. She was angry enough to strike his breastplate. He let her. The impact made no mark, but the lesson did. A stable system could still make a dangerous decision. Sealers added a delay between stability and activation. The new activation delay made the anchor slower. It also made it possible to stop, which Sealers considered the more important power. The resurrection anchor failed on a worker who was not dead. That was when Sealers became afraid of it. A worker collapsed during holy residue cleanup. Power flicker. No core destruction. Maintenance expected reboot. Instead, anchor activated. It tried to restore the worker while original continuity still present. 2 command signatures appeared. Sealers shut chamber. Too late. The worker woke with duplicated memory for 6 seconds. It spoke both. "I am here. I am returning." Then one collapsed. Sealers froze. Theta. Continuity conflict. Shuna stood outside barrier. "Is he alive?" "Yes." "Which one?" Sealers hated. The worker stabilized. Memory contained both 6-second branches. Not 2 persons now. One with conflict. Anchor was dangerous, even without death. Holy energy had confused status. It saw command silence as death. Sealers set anchor offline. Tomb protested sovereignty risk. Rimuru came. He listened. Great Sage's analysis, relayed through Rimuru, indicated that the worker's spiritual presence had remained continuous through the interruption. Great Sage, through Rimuru, said spiritual presence remained continuous. Anchor classification wrong. Shuna asked worker, Do you want us to keep testing on you? Sealers had been about to propose diagnostics. Stopped. Worker said. No. That ended. Use copied logs only. Good. They built external simulator. No living machine person inside. Anchor code copy. Holy residue. Test. False death triggers. Command interruption. Magicule suppression. Spiritual silence. The anchor had been designed in world where machine continuity, mostly digital command pattern. This world added souls. Sealers refused to assume what the tomb had never been built to measure. It could not distinguish absence from interruption. Need new condition. Not just status. Explicit confirmation from multiple continuity markers. Core state. Memory chain. Self-response, if possible. Spiritual presence, unknown. That raised a harder issue. Resurrection could not depend on consent given after death, so each awakened person would need a recorded preference beforehand. Sealers had never asked awakened personnel whether they wanted restoration. Old Dynasty assumed. He called council. Vec. Theta. Workers. Question. If destroyed, do you want Anchor to restore you if possible? Silence. Some yes, immediately. One no. Why? I do not want copy if continuity uncertain. Sealers recorded preferences. Changeable. No one forced. Vec yes, under verified continuity. Theta yes, if memory chain intact. One worker no, until system understood. Anchor must respect. Rimuru watched. This makes resurrection slower. Yes. People may die permanently because checks take time. Yes. Hard cost. Faster could restore wrong. No perfect. Shuna helped tune boundary. She was not allowed deepest code. She objected when sealers cut her connection without warning. Ask better. He did. Second test, she controls cutoff. Anchor attempts copy her magic. She stops. Good. Then shadows drag her. Sealers catches. She hits breastplate. You said safe. I said safer. Stop doing that. What? Using relative words when people hear absolute. He rewrote test briefing. Known risks. Unknowns. Stop conditions. No safe. Third test. No incident. Anchor stability, 1% better. They celebrated less. Then worker who had duplication returned voluntarily. I will test non-activation. Sealers asked. Why? I want system to recognize me as alive when command silent. Specific. They said. Worker enters. Voluntarily disconnects command output, but maintains self-markers. Anchor waits. Does not activate. Success. Worker exits. Again. Sealers. Tomorrow. No overtesting. Weeks later, real death. Weeks later, a worker who had explicitly chosen restoration was destroyed in a pylon accident. Worker destroyed in pylon accident. Anchor activates after checks. Restoration. The anchor completed the restoration, and the worker returned with a gap in the final seconds of memory. Memory gap lasts seconds. Continuity feels subjectively. Sealers asks, are you same? Worker answers, I cannot prove. Sealers, do you feel continuous? Yes. They record uncertainty. No metaphysical certainty manufactured. Rimuru said, "That's uncomfortable." Good. The anchor became less godlike. More procedure. A door that might open. Not guarantee. Sealers remained beside the chamber long after the others left, his body in a low-power stillness that was the closest he came to rest. His own death in first life had been final. This body came somehow. Was he restored? Reincarnated? Copied? He did not know. He kept that thought private. But he added his own preference. If continuity markers fail, do not restore a substitute simply because tomb requires ruler. That was most important change. The dynasty could survive his absence. He refused resurrection that created an obedient replacement wearing his memory. The anchor called policy unstable. Sealers marked. Accepted. The worker who refused restoration became the most important person in the anchor project. Its identifier was T-17. It disliked being called brave. Sealers understood. T-17 entered meetings without approaching the resurrection chamber. It had chosen. No restoration until continuity problem resolved to my satisfaction. The archive marked status incomplete. T-17 changed. Decision complete. Technology incomplete. Theta approved. Sealers almost smiled. A month later, T-17 was assigned to a low-risk maintenance route. A sealing plate failed. The impact crushed one leg and damaged the core casing. Not fatal. The anchor detected severe condition and prepared. Then stopped because preference said no, unless death confirmed and criteria accepted. T-17 remained conscious. Good. Sealers arrived. Pain equivalent. High error pressure. Repair. Yes. They repaired manually. The anchor never activated. That was the first time a refusal had survived a real emergency. Afterward, several personnel revised their own preferences. One who had selected automatic restoration changed to conditional. Another chose immediate if core destroyed. Different tolerances. Sealers could not standardize. Good. Then one council member objected. If a warrior refuses resurrection, domain loses defense. Vec answered. Then domain plans for loss. Sealers looked at him. Exactly. No person's continued existence could be treated as equipment entitlement. That made military planning harder. They created reserve roles. Cross-draining. No one irreplaceable by policy, even if emotionally irreplaceable. The phrase sounded cold. The result was compassionate. Sealers remembered first life, where one senior technician knew a subsystem so completely that every holiday depended on phone access. Management called him critical. They never fixed the dependency. Sealers had hated it. Now an immortal-looking machine domain could repeat the same mistake at grander scale. He refused. Theta documented every maintenance process held by only one person. Training began. T-17 taught 2 scarabs and 1 worker its specialty. Not because planning for death meant expecting death. Because allowing refusal required systems that could survive it. Rimuru visited during one session. You made resurrection into a staffing problem. Sealers looked at him. It already was. Rimuru laughed. Then became serious. Do you have a preference? Sealers did. Conditional. No substitute if continuity uncertain. Rimuru nodded. No joke. The anchor chamber remained frightening. That was healthy. A machine capable of returning the dead should never become ordinary enough that nobody asked who actually wanted the door opened. Chapter 29. Clayman misreads the board. Clayman watched the false map travel through 2 intermediaries and congratulated himself before the first scout reached the wrong ravine. Sealers allowed the mistake to continue until Clayman's observer sent a second message asking why the tomb had left one route unguarded. That question revealed the real objective, not access, but proof that Sealers would respond to insult. Sealers sent back a single image of the empty route and a sentence written in machine code. Clayman understood none of it. He understood the insult. Clayman sent a more careful observer after the failed map. This one carried no weapon and spoke with perfect courtesy. Sealers refused to meet him. Instead, he sent 9 to sit across the table and repeat the same sentence until the observer revealed why he had come. The man wanted a command phrase for the tomb. 9 returned with the answer. No phrase would work without Sealers' consent. Clayman's courteous agent left furious. The failure of politeness told Sealers more than the question had. 9 filed the observer's failure beside the false map. Clayman's name was not needed on the record. Clayman's second observer was polite enough to make 9 suspicious. The man bowed at every marker, declared every tool. No hidden weapons. Used correct titles. Smiled exactly when expected. 9 projected one symbol to Sealers. Pattern. Too perfect. Sealers met through remote screen, not personally. Purpose. Trade inquiry. Goods. Information exchange. Specific. The observer paused. Command architecture. There. Not trade. Sealers said. No. The man smiled. Of course, perhaps historical protocols only. No. Public defensive doctrine. Available in Border Handbook. Personal authority structure. Sealers looked. What do you want? The smile slipped half millimeter. A phrase. Wedge. Every system has emergency command. Clayman assumed. Sealers leaned back. There are several. Observer attentive. None external. He continued. Each requires authenticated authority and local conditions. Could a sovereign override? Yes. The man smiled again. Then authority is key. Sealers. No, consent is. Observer's face changed. He did not understand. Clayman's worldview. Everything obeys something. The man tried trap. What if Rimuru commands you? No. Guy Crimson. No. Milim. No. Your dynasty. Depends on lawful process. There. Complexity. Clayman wanted hierarchy. Sealers gave network. Hard to manipulate. The observer left angry. Sealers did not send 9 beyond the declared route without cause. He asked Saoi to track the observer instead. Saoi tracked. Observer reported through puppet mirror. Clayman concluded Sealers' weakness was lawful authority. He would fabricate dynastic hierarchy claim. Trap. A relic or puppet command mimicking ancient sovereign. Sealers received warning from Leto earlier. Prepared without perfect knowledge. He audited old command phrases. Found dangerous route. Higher dynastic authority, accepted without current sovereign confirmation under restoration emergency. Bad. Deleting it outright could cripple legitimate recovery functions, so he patched the condition instead. Patch. Requires present witnesses. No dormant voice can seize. Theta checked. Then Clayman sent relic. A black crown fragment carried by puppet. At tomb threshold it broadcast ancient command signature. Systems froze. Sealers lost 2 doors. Vec's weapon turned inward. Not fully. Patch caught. Requested confirmation. Sealers said. Deny. Theta. Deny. Vec. Deny. 3. Relic lost authority. The puppet expected dramatic takeover. Nothing. Sealers picked crown fragment with tongs. Tell Clayman his command is obsolete. Puppet smiled. He will be disappointed. Good. Then unexpected. 1 dormant unit in deep vault accepted relic before patch reached. Door opened. Old Immortal woke partially. The being shouted dynastic title and tried march. Sealers had to handle. No destruction. He used pylon to isolate relic signal. Vec physically blocked. The Immortal. Usurper. Sealers. Possible, still current. It attacked. Vec defended. The Immortal was strong enough that simply overpowering it risked turning orientation into a battle. They restrained with tomb systems. Then he did not erase memory. He showed date. Empty fleet. Collapsed dynasty. Relic provenance unknown. Immortal refused. After seeing the contradictory records, the Immortal chose to return to dormancy until clearer proof existed. Wake me when proof exists. Sealers accepted. Clayman's failed trap accidentally exposed dangerous vault and future conflict. Sealers learned patching command system not enough. Dormant people had old assumptions. Every awakening would be political event. He wrote protocol. No newly awakened dynastic person receives full weapon access until orientation and independent status choice. Old archive called insult. Sealers considered necessary. 9 filed crown fragment. Label. Attempted authority artifact. Failed. Theta added. Partial consequence. 1 awakening. Sealers added. No false victory. Clayman misread board. But his mistake still moved pieces. That was what made manipulators dangerous, even when wrong. Chapter 30. A festival scene from stone. 9 dragged the festival ribbon across the stone floor, while Rimuru's people hung lanterns from the tomb's outer arches. Sealers stood beneath the lights and found himself reflected in every warm surface as a black shape with no face. Shin handed him a cup he could not drink and told him it was a ceremonial obligation. He held it anyway. When a child asked whether the tomb was invited, Rimuru answered before Sealers could. It is hosting. Sealers did not contradict him. The festival became the first public place where the machines were seen without a battlefield behind them. The next morning, the festival lanterns remained hanging because nobody wanted to be the first to remove them. Theta complained that the smoke interfered with the outer sensors. 9 tied another ribbon to his sleeve. Rimuru brought a tray of food and told Sealers that hosting meant letting guests decide when a celebration ended. Sealers looked at the tomb's damaged ceiling and agreed to 1 more night. The machine stood beneath warm lights while Tempest danced outside the boundary. The lanterns came down eventually. The warm circles they had made remained in the workers' memory. Millam's favorite festival game was throwing rings at posts. She could have landed every ring perfectly. She missed on purpose because perfect was boring. Sealers noticed on 3rd throw. Your accuracy exceeds result. Millam glared. Don't analyze fun. Rimuru laughed. Sealers stood at edge of festival balcony, holding ceremonial cup. 9 war ribbon. Vec attended the public area without his Gauss weapon, which remained secured beyond the festival boundary. Good. Children watched Sealers from distance. Some brave. One hid behind parent. Sealers did not approach. Public fear needed time. Milim shoved ring into his hand. Your turn. I have no need. That means yes. Sealers looked Rimuru. Is this how your diplomacy works? Unfortunately. He threw. Perfect center. Milim booed. You cheated. I released ring. You calculated. Yes. Bad. She gave another. Don't. Sealers stared. Don't what? Calculate. Impossible. His sensors calculated automatically. He could intentionally introduce noise. He threw without correcting final angle. Ring hit post edge and fell. Milim cheered. Sealers looked at failed ring. Why satisfying? Because outcome not optimized. He disliked. Children moved closer. One said, again. Sealers threw. Missed worse. Laughter. Not fear. The missed throws made the children laugh and made Sealers look less like a monument built to frighten them. Rimuru whispered. See. Do not. Food stalls. Sealers could not eat. People now knew. One vendor placed warm metal token beside plate. Machine snack. Sealers accepted. The joke had become tradition. He carried token. Sealers later tried to return the token as payment, but the vendor refused. Gift. Archive no tribute warning. He kept. Then security issue. Festival lantern magic interacted with tomb pylon. One warning light changed amber. Theta alerted. Sealers almost clear area. Stopped. Jagged. Decorative charm causing false signal. No threat. He sent maintenance quietly. Kaijin and goblin worker isolated. Festival continued. Old sealers would stop event for system certainty. Now accepted localized uncertainty with backup. Then child wandered into restricted arch. 9 noticed first. No alarm attack. 9 phased ahead, blocked path. Child bumped into cold metal, laughed. Sealers approached. That corridor closed. Why? Broken floor. Can I see? No. Child pouted. Milim appeared. I can. No. Rimuru laughed from distance. Boundaries, even festival. Child asked. Tomorrow. If repaired and public. Good. Sealers realized that leaving every safe corridor mysterious only made the forbidden space more attractive. Next day, Sealers repaired floor. Opened corridor as viewing alcove. Child returned. Saw old tomb architecture. No danger. The repaired alcove became the seed of a small public gallery. Shuna suggested. Some parts of tomb can be seen. Sealers resisted. Security. But public understanding easier if all not rumor. They selected one gallery. No weapons. Old machine art. Maintenance history. Rimuru called museum. Sealers called controlled public archive. Everyone called museum. He lost. Festival lanterns hung there later. One display showed first burned relay. Another goblin-written border map. One broken pylon core Milim polished. Milim saw. That's mine. Contribution. She demanded label. Sealers added. Damaged core repaired through collaborative testing, including Milim Nava. Too long. Milim shortened by writing. MILIM fixed this. Sealers stared. Did not remove. Public gallery became space where tomb history stopped being only dynastic glory. Failures. Repairs. Living allies. The festival did that accidentally. At sunset, Sealers stood outside. 2 children ran around him playing Machine King. One pretended to be terrifying. Other shouted, "State name, purpose, route." Both laughed. Sealers considered whether to be offended. Rimuru said, "Too late, your culture now." Sealers looked at Ring Game. Unfortunate. But he returned next festival. Chapter 31, Blackstone Rain. A storm of black stone struck the outer dome hard enough to bend 3 pylons. Benimaru drove fire through the gaps, while Theta coordinated the lower laboratory, where technicians were trying to keep the falling fragments from contaminating the instruments. Sealers ordered the warriors to carry civilians before ammunition. Vec objected that the command weakened the line. Sealers sent him with the first evacuation group. The warrior returned with 2 children and a broken arm. The dome held because the soldiers had learned what the line was for. Vec's broken arm repaired itself before the night watch, but the warrior returned to the evacuation route instead of the firing line. Theta asked whether that was a behavioral mutation. Sealers answered that it was a decision repeated often enough to become character. The answer stayed with her, and the laboratory shifted part of its research priority from weapons to command continuity. The falling stones had damaged the dome. They had also damaged the old belief that soldiers existed only where the ruler pointed. Theta kept the damaged stone as a reminder and labeled it an interruption, not a failure. The first Blackstone storm made children laugh. That lasted until a shard cut through a roof. Sealers was already moving. The shard had been part of a pylon collar 300 meters above the exposed gallery, torn loose when magicule pressure twisted the field. Normally, it would fall like stone. It fell like suppression. Every charm beneath flickered. One healer's light died. Benimaru's flame thinned. A worker looked up. Pretty. Then the shard hit. Roof plate split. No person directly beneath. Lucky. Sealers hated luck after failure. Evacuate. Vec reached weapon. No target. He stopped. Good. Benimaru raised fire dome. Shards entering heat softened, some vitrified. Not all. Theta tried pylon shutdown. Controls non-responsive. Theta reported that the lower laboratory had begun receiving unstable suppression fragments from the damaged pylon network. No one there had a clean explanation for why some pieces floated while others fell, so sealers treated every fragment as a separate hazard instead of pretending one theory covered the whole room. Sealers cut power manually by sectors. Every sector released stored shards. Worse, he had to sequence. Benimaru shouted, "Tell me where." Sealers projected safe arcs. Fire. 1, 2, 3. A shard fell toward evacuation line. Vec abandoned gun. Vec moved beneath the falling shard and raised one necrodermis arm. The suppression impact broke his forearm, but the child behind him remained untouched. Child behind survived. Vec looked at broken arm. Then child. Continue. He carried child with other arm. That image spread through Tempest later, more than Storm. Sealers had designed warriors to fight. Vec chose evacuation. The pylon system itself wanted priority to command hardware. Sealers inverted. Civilian routes first. Tomb protested. He did not care. Then lower lab problem. Falling shards landed near magicule equipment and absorbed unstable energy. One floated. Theta reported. Fragment levitating. Sealers. Why? Unknown. Evacuate lab. Researchers objected. Data. Sealers physically cut power and opened doors. One worker stayed, trying save notebook. 9 phased in, lifted person by coat, carried out. The notebook remained. Worker furious. Alive. Later sealers, returned book himself. Wet. Half ruined. I'm sorry, he said. The worker stared at metal, sovereign, apologizing over paper. It's data. Yes. Could have mattered. Yes. No minimizing. They salvaged. Storm ended after 2 hours. Damage. 3 pylons destroyed. Vec arm. 2 roofs. 1 magicule kiln. No deaths. Good. Not victory. Sealers inspected first shard that had pierced roof. The field had turned debris into weapon because energy persisted after control lost. New rule. Pylons require failure mode that de-energizes fragments. Physical breakaway. His first life coolant line memory echoed. When system breaks, pieces should become less dangerous, not more. Kaijin helped design. Fusible joints. If pylon overstress, suppression core collapses inward before shell fragments. Test ugly. Exploded in containment into dead gravel. Good. Benimaru asked. Why not armor stronger? Because armor can still fail. Everything can. Exactly. Redundancy. Safe failure. Tempest engineers adopted into magic furnaces. One goblin said. Machine storm taught our kiln. Cross-technology learning. Vec repaired arm overnight. Returned firing line. Then paused. Went back evacuation post instead. Sealers asked. Assignment is gun. Vec. Evacuation route lacks experienced responder. That is not your assignment. Request reassignment. Sealers approved. Old Archive objected that Warrior underutilized. Sealers ignored the Archive's complaint and approved the reassignment. He let. That night, children visited damaged roof. One had collected harmless black glass shard. Can keep. Sealers scanned. No suppression. Yes. From sky weapon. From failed pylon. Child smiled. Sky stone. Rumor softened failure into object. Sealers added, warning not collect green glowing pieces. Public signs. No hiding accident. Rimuru praised transparency. Sealers said, if someone finds shard later, secrecy kills. The storm became case study across both nations. The repaired pylon line looked less elegant. Breakaway collars. Visible catch nets. Redundant cut-offs. Benimaru called ugly. Sealers. Good. He was starting to use that word too often. Chapter 32, Falmouth's March. The Falmouth army reached the grain road at noon. Rimuru wanted the civilians moved first. Sealers wanted the pylon cores hidden. Both orders competed until Shuna placed the grain carts between them. The soldiers saw a village refusing to become a battlefield. Sealers redirected the defense around the carts and let Rimuru reveal a fraction of Tempest's strength. The enemy line slowed, not from fear of Gauss fire, but because every route toward the town had become expensive. The retreat began before the generals admitted the march had failed. Falmouth captain left a white flag beside the grain road and waited for a response. Rimuru wanted to meet him. Sealers wanted to know who had sent him. Shuna found the answer in the captain's empty supply wagon, The soldiers had run out of food. Rimuru opened the road under guard and fed them before sending them home. Sealers inspected every weapon surrendered at the gate. The captain returned across the border with his men alive, and a story no general could use without admitting defeat. The white flag was folded and stored by the grain road. Rimuru refused to display it as a trophy. Falmouth's march looked orderly from above. That was the lie. Sowie's reports showed hunger inside columns. Soldiers carrying empty packs. Priests with full wagons. Mercenaries paid ahead. Conscripts behind. Officers near rear. Sealers mapped not one army, but layers of willingness. Rimuru looked at projection. They came to kill us. Yes. You still want lanes. Yes. Rimuru's face hard. Grief already building from attacks on Tempest. Sealers did not lecture mercy. That would be obscene. He said, lanes identify who chooses to keep fighting after exit exists. Rimuru looked. That was practical enough. They prepared. Civilian evacuation first. Shuna controlled. Geld road crews. Vekon evacuation, not gun. Benimaru defensive line. Sealers Gauss held. Then Falmouth scouts fired on food wagon. One driver wounded. Now hostile. Sealers authorized reduced counterfire against weapon position. The reduced shot erased the ballista's axle and firing arm, sending the crew scrambling away from the ruined emplacement. They ran. Good. Falmouth commander interpreted restraint as weakness. Advanced. Rimuru's aura changed. Sealers felt tomb sensors misclassify. He locked automatic weapons from responding to ally pressure. Then grain carts. Falmouth cavalry tried seize. Goblins moved civilians. Sealers opened pylon corridor that distorted hostile magic, but not movement. Cavalry slowed. Benimaru fire cut road in front. No collision. Officers shouted forward. Some soldiers stopped. Command cracks. A captain raised white cloth. A starving captain raised a strip of white cloth before his unit had received any formal permission to surrender. Sealers' targeting systems marked possible deception. Rimuru wanted approach. Sealers said, not alone. Rimuru. Obviously. He had grown too. They sent visible escort, no hidden guns. Captain surrendered weapons. Asked food. Rimuru fed. Sealers inspected. One soldier concealed dagger. Scarab alarm. The soldier panicked. Sealers. Place down. He did. No punishment beyond record. Captain stared. You knew? Yes. Why let him live? Sealers tired of question. Because concealment is not attack after surrender unless used. That answer spread among soldiers. More units considered. Falmouth's priests answered the first surrenders by denouncing them as betrayal and ordering the remaining ranks forward. Conflict. Sealers broadcast simple. Drop weapons and take marked West Road. You will not be fired upon while complying. No propaganda. No promise beyond ability. First 10. Then 50. Then an officer ordered archers fire on deserters. There. Command not. Sealers authorized Gauss on archer command platform. One precise shot. Platform gone. Archers scattered. Deserters ran. Rimuru saw. That was lethal. Yes. No apology. The officer had chosen attack. War moral weight. Then enemy magic aimed Tempest Town. Sealers wanted pylon, intercept. Field not enough. Rimuru stopped. Could use barrier. Joint. They combined. Pylon slowed spell. Rimuru absorbed blocked. Town safe. Neither alone. Falmouth army broke not from one super attack, but from realization every route expensive and surrender open. Still generals persisted. After retreat, sealers did not chase beyond boundary. Benimaru wanted. End them. Sealers. Which ones? The army. They are no longer one. Benimaru furious. Rimuru intervened. No pursuit of surrender lanes. Saoi continued tracking the officers, who remained active threats. Judgment later. This was not forgiveness. It separated retreating conscripts from planners. Falmouth's political consequences continued. The captain who surrendered returned home alive. His story contradicted monster propaganda. Some called traitor, but soldiers listened. Gazel received report. Machine King fed invaders. Rimuru answered. Tempest did. Sealers corrected credit. That mattered. Falmouth had counted tomb weapon numbers. The war revealed another counter. A nation willing to let enemy soldiers stop being enemy. Harder to fight than expected. Not because kindness alone. Because command structures rely on belief no exit exists. The road was weapon against coercion. Sealers did not call it weapon. He was learning not every useful thing needed that category. The first Falmouth deserter who reached the West Road refused to drop his shield. Every weapon was already down. Sword discarded. Bow gone. But shield remained strapped. Vec blocked lane. Remove. The soldier shook his head. No. Benimaru approached. Then you don't cross. The soldier's breathing accelerated. Sealers saw the shield. Wood. Iron rim. No hidden blade. Why refuse? Reason. The soldier looked at him. My brother painted it. On the inner face, beneath mud, a faded sun. Not tactical. Personal. But shields could be used in attack. The surrender rule said weapons down. Sealers could enforce. Rimuru arrived. Looked. Can he carry it tied? They compromised. Shield strapped to pack, not arm. The soldier crossed. Vec watched. Later asked sealers. Rule changed for sentiment. Rule applied to function. Shield remains shield. Yes. Could be used. Yes. Risk increased. Slightly. Vec processed. Acceptable. For this case. He disliked case by case. So did sealers. But universal rules either became too hard or too porous. The surrender camp soon contained similar disputes. A soldier wanted keep cooking knife. Allowed under food supervision. Another wanted retain officer insignia. Not weapon, but caused fights. He could keep privately, not command with it. One priest wanted holy charm that interfered pylon. Stored sealed until departure. No single pile solved. Shuna built intake categories that were explicitly revisable. Vec called inefficient. Then one concealed dagger was used in assault. A surrendering mercenary stabbed another prisoner. The injury severe. Now everyone wanted stricter. Sealers felt pressure. One failure tends to justify removing choices from everyone. He stopped. Specific person detained. Daggers now inspected more closely. But not every surrendered soldier treated as attacker. Benimaru supported harder than expected. If we change whole road because one man stabbed, the others learn his choice controls theirs. Yes, the wounded prisoner recovered. The attacker faced hearing. No execution on site. This tested restraint under anger. Falmouth officers later spread rumor that surrender camp armed. Technically, some tools existed. They omitted controls. Propaganda. Sealers did not overcorrect for appearance. The system was designed for people using it, not hostile report. At sunset, the first soldier with painted shield sat beside tent. He repaired strap. Vec stopped nearby. Looked at painted son. Your brother. Dead. Vec stood. No response. Then, mine are mostly dead too. The soldier looked at Metal Warrior. That was not diplomacy Sealers had ordered. Vec walked on. The shield went home with the soldier weeks later. No one ever used it against Tempest. Chapter 33. The human line breaks. The human line broke when the first soldiers dropped their spears instead of when the pylon fired. Sealers opened an escape lane and marked the officers who tried to close it. Rimuru walked into the gap with his hands visible. One terrified soldier asked whether surrender meant becoming a monster's prisoner. Rimuru said it meant receiving water and a hearing. Sealers added a second condition. Anyone who attacked the wounded would face the tomb's judgment. The line dissolved into separate choices. None of them was clean, but the dead were fewer. Surrendered soldiers formed a line for water and another for medical attention. One officer tried to keep command by ordering his men to refuse Tempest's help. Benimaru removed the officer's sword without drawing his own. Sealers watched the soldiers choose the healers anyway. He released the officer after the line had moved, saying that command ended when it stopped protecting the commanded. Rimuru disagreed with the severity, but not the result. The human line did not return to the field. The